Hey, what's up guys? John here. Rents are going to fall in California by 50% due to these new radical policies that are going to completely reshape housing and property rights throughout the entire state. This is going to be huge, a massive opportunity for renters and for soon-to-be home buyers, and an absolutely devastating blow for landlords and property owners as the entire landscape changes. And these new laws are going to, I think it's going to reset everything throughout housing, whether it be you live in Chicago, Boston, Baltimore, Philly, New York, Miami, Austin, it doesn't matter, Atlanta. You could be in any of these cities. This is all going to be coming here, no doubt about it. And this is what all landlords need to understand, is that leverage in this economic environment is going to be a real devastating blow, simply because a lot of landlords are hoping that rents are going to continue to rise at this current trajectory, basing their prediction on affordability. Hey, if renters can't go out there and buy homes, they're going to be forced to rent, and there's going to be upward pressure on rents, right? Makes sense, right? Wrong. This is why. So right now, rents, they're saying is $2,016 for an average apartment. However, in 2019, 2020, or before the pandemic, it was about $1,600. However, state of California, they're claiming 17 million people are renting in the state. So what would it take for rents to drop by 50%? Well, this is exactly what it would take. Before I jump into it, please hit the like button. YouTube's going to share this content to educate more people about what's going on in California, real estate, housing, and the economy. California doubles down on its housing laws, but the state has passed a flurry of pro-housing laws in recent years, but there's little enforcement until recently. So they're going to be going after municipalities, jurisdictions, cities, counties, all throughout the entire state of California, and they're going to be issuing fines. They're going to be doing all these different pretty radical measures to ensure that these policies get enforced. As California legislative session drew to a close last month, lawmakers approved two major bills aimed at transforming housing malls, office buildings, parking lots into housing. Now, I've been talking about this for a while, saying that this is what they're going to do. They're going to start converting these empty office buildings into housing units. And, well, parking lots, that is going to be very big, because what's going to happen with these retail shopping centers is that mom and pop businesses are likely going to get squeezed over the next 5 to 10 years. And they're going to have these empty retail centers that are likely going to either be converted into storage units or into housing. This is where things are going to be going. However, when you're talking about transforming malls and office buildings and parking lots, and they have 17 million renters, and their goal is to bring several million new housing units to market, what is that going to do? It's going to do a couple things. Well, if you look at what Maxine Waters said, yes, the small landlords are at a disadvantage, but guess what? They know how to go to the bank and they know how to get a loan. House Finance Services Chair Maxine Waters, Democrat of California, has said July 30th, as she rallied support for extending the eviction ban, they know how to deal with hard times. But they believe that they can hang on and aid will flow smoothly. Aid never flew smoothly. This is from 2021. And I do not believe that the renter families, many of whom have 3 or 4 children, have that opportunity. Okay, so they were basically telling landlords to go finance this situation that we put you in, but now the cost of financing is increasing. Interest rates are rising. 30-year fixed rate on a duplex or a fourplex last year might have been 3% or 3.25%. Now that number is up 100%, right? So they're probably looking in the mid 6s or higher, depending on their debt to income ratio and their credit scores now, given all of the tragedy that a lot of these property owners and people have went through. Right? So what's going to happen is they're going to pay an arm and a leg to get this money. And then as it's happening, their costs are going up and then rents are going to be coming down, equating to a very big problem for landlords. So affordable housing advocates cheered the measures, which could result in millions of more homes in the Golden State. The last 6 years have played out well in Sacramento, with each session ending in a flurry of new laws devised to increase housing. California's housing crisis is dire. We have some of the nation's highest rents, more than 100,000 people living on the streets, and the state leaders are increasingly trying to tackle the problem through legislation. But new housing laws don't always work exactly as lawmakers would hope. Last year, after the legislature passed a new law allowing duplexes across the state, dozens of cities adopted ordinances that discouraged such units by tackling on numerous standards. Among the creative requirements, a covered porch, a signature from an archaeologist, the highest level of energy efficiency, and an automatic garage door. The state attorney general, Rob Bonta, said that when he was an assemblyman, he assumed that the housing laws that he and his colleagues passed would actually be implemented, but often they weren't. One of the first things I asked my team when I got into the seat a little over a year ago is, what are we doing to enforce housing laws in the state of California? Bonta told me they're not of advice. As my colleague Connor Doherty and I recently reported, Governor Gavin Newsom and the state officials are stepping up enforcement over the housing laws that they already have on the books. In November, Bonta created a housing strike force to target local governments that don't comply with state laws. They're going to be going after these local governments in a pretty big way. So this is what I think is going to happen. I believe that we're going to see mom and pop landlords and everyday property owners start looking at things like this, where they can do a 3D printed prefab home for 25 grand, right? 25 grand. Think about that. You buy something 25 grand, you rent it out for $1,000 bucks, $1,500 bucks. You're still getting a pretty crazy return. You would not be able to get that type of return, investing in the stock market, at least with some stability. And, I believe people are going to start converting, leaving their offices and doing certain things like this. They're going to start really taking money out of the traditional economy. Office buildings, I think, are going to go through more pain and more changes, all of which are going to be converted into housing. So the more that the economy structures and rechanges in California, the more housing they're going to be able to convert and the more problems it's going to mean for everyday mom and pop landlords. Now, a lot of people might say, screw the landlord. The landlord's the problem. Greedy capitalism. A lot of people would say that. But we all have to really understand what's going to happen, right? We're going to start to see mom and pop landlords bleed out. Who's going to buy them out? Is it going to be, just a friendly lady or friendly guy that's like, hey, I want to rent everything for $100? No, it's going to be a large corporation that's going to buy these assets, and they are going to increase rent as much as possible and make things more challenging and more, painful than ever before. At least mom and pop landlords, most of them, care about their tenants. They have a long-standing relationship with their tenants. They do everything that they could possibly do to help them, because they might have one duplex or, fourplex. They're not sitting there with 600 doors. A lot of them anyway, because 76% of all mom and pop landlords in America are mom and pop. Like 76%. That's a substantial figure. And they're moving in this direction. You see the buzzwords, right? This is what's going to happen. And now rents across the U.S. are starting to show a sign of cooling. I've been saying this for a very long time, that rents are going to be coming down in a very substantial fashion. But the state of California is going to set this trend. And I believe 50% is going to be the target in the next 5 years. We're going to see this. The state's Department of Housing and Community Development has been sending letters to local governments telling them that they are out of compliance with state regulations. In August, the agencies announced the first of its kind investigation of San Francisco's notoriously complex development process. Another really big benefit here. You think about this. If you were the state of California and your goal was to buy up a ton of housing, how would you do it? An eviction moratorium probably would help, right? Bleed out the landlords. And then as you get closer to that deadline, you could say, hey, I can see you're in financial distress. I can write you a check. I can get you out of here. I'll work with you. And if you need to, this or that, I'll try to work with you, find a solution. But you want to buy up as much property as possible. Then when you buy up the property, you bring rents down as low as possible to make it much more challenging for the other landlords that are making it to keep the lights on. Because then what's going to happen is you're going to change the median rental rates in the market if you can buy up enough property. And then as that happens, then boom, they start just acquiring more and more housing. And as they start to move in these other caveats, office buildings, malls, strip centers, parking lots, they start to do all these things. They start adding prefabricated ADUs, and they start moving this direction. I'm telling you, it's going to have a massive, massive impact. A lot of people don't realize that when you buy a multifamily property, let's say a 10-unit apartment building, and each apartment's, let's say, renting for $2,000, right? So $24,000 in gross monthly income. What most people would do is they would look at, okay, what are my expenses? Repairs, maintenance, all my expenses, look at the net operating income, divide the net operating income on the annual basis by the purchase price, come up with a cap rate, and they would end up buying a deal based on, that return. If that return is changing, it's going to have a huge impact on these landlords when it comes time to refinance their properties, because you cannot buy commercial properties on 30-year fixed rate loans. You simply can't. You're going to buy them on a 3-year, 5-year, 7-year, or 10-year ARM. So at the end of that, if rents are plummeting, and then what's ultimately happening is interest rates are rising, you're going to have a situation in which landlords aren't going to be able to refi their buildings, and a lot of them are going to get stuck holding this bleeding asset, right? So all this is going to have a huge impact on housing in California. The reasons are practical, but also not also political. Voters are more frustrated than ever with the state's housing crisis. Both Bonta and Newsom are up for re-election in the fall. When I ran in 2018, I was vulnerable. I was vulnerability to be unapologetically pro-housing candidate, said Buffy Wicks, a Democratic Assemblywoman from Oakland, who wrote one of the two main housing bills passed by the legislature last month. Now it's absolutely an asset. She's told Connor, I get up on the floor of the assembly and I say 10 times a week, we have to build more housing in our communities. All of the communities need more housing. We need more low income, median income, and market rate. You couldn't do that in a comfortable way 4 years ago. This is where we're going. What do you think about this entire situation? Do you believe me when I say that rents are going to absolutely plummet in the state of California, probably somewhere in the range of 50%? Like, think about it. Rents have already increased about 25% just in the last 2 years. So you're basically giving back that gain of the last 2 years and then seeing a 25% decrease when they're talking about bringing millions of new housing units to market, and a lot of these landlords are going to bleed out. The economics are there. Rents are going to plummet in the state of California. Curious as to what you think. Hit the like button, subscribe here, and on my second channel, and LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok up in the banner, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.